Hey y'all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out another one of my videos. Today I'm super excited to be sharing with you guys my picks when it comes to summer palettes, the type of palettes that come to my mind when I look at the palette. I'm like, oh yeah, that's really a summer palette. And so I picked 10 from my collection. Now I'm not going to say that these are like my top 10 summer favorites when it comes to palettes, because I've said this before, I'm not someone who tends to like gravitate towards specific palettes when it comes to seasons. However, when I am using palettes, there are definitely those palettes in my collection that when I'm using them, I'm just like, oh yeah, this is like my type of summer palette. So those are the type of palettes that we're going to be talking about, and I picked 10 from my collection that, in my opinion, these are the ones that say summer the loudest to me, and they're just kind of my preferences when it comes to a palette that just makes me think of the warm, hot summer days on a beach, you know, or if you're in Florida, just sitting in the house watching the rain come down, because that's just summer in Florida, because that's how it's been for the past month. But yeah, let's go ahead and just get into it, and I'm going to share with you guys 10 palettes from my collection that make me think of summer. This is going to be in no particular order, so I'm just I have my pile of 10 in front of me, and I'm going to grab and go as we go along. So honestly, the smaller palettes are going to be first, larger palettes are going to be last, because that's kind of how I stacked them. Anyway, first one I'm going to grab is from OFRA. This is the Signature Palette Beachside palette, and I remember when I tried this last year, I created so many different looks, and each time I did create a look, I was just like, oh my goodness, this makes me think of summer. And I mean, it is called the Beachside palette, so they definitely had that thought on the mind when they made this, so it makes sense that this came to my mind when I was thinking about my summer themed palettes, because this is definitely one that I created so many fun looks. I mean, it's only a 5-pan palette, so it's a little limiting when it comes to what type of looks and the different types of looks you can get. However, with the colors that you have here, there was a lot of very summery vibes. And for me personally, the only thing that this was missing was a darker color to deepen it up, because I think that's definitely something that you're going to see a theme with all the palettes that I picked today, is that while I like nice and colorful palettes when it comes to summer, I like a lot of depth in my looks when it comes to summer. Spring is more of my like light washes of color, and where I don't mind it not being as dark on the outer corner, that type of thing. But when it comes to summer, I like a lot of depth with those pops and those bold colors. So you're definitely going to see that theme as we go along. So that's the only thing that this palette is missing, because there isn't any type of deepening shade. I would have loved a really dark type of hot pink red. I mean, this gets pretty dark, so I don't mind it. Hence why I kept it, why I enjoyed it, and why I think of it and thought of it and wanted to include it in my summer favorites, because it is just a great palette when it comes to my type of summer themed makeup and my type of summer looks. So it's a palette that is missing that deeper shade for me. However, because it is a 5-pan palette and because it is so up my alley when it comes to summer type of makeup, I forgive it, I overlook it and whatnot. And yeah, definitely the Beachside palette was one of the first that came to mind when I was pulling all the palettes for this video. Next up, I thought of the Midas Cosmetics. I think this is the Artistry palette Volume 1 palette. Now this is a darker palette. They had a one for like lighter skin and one for darker skin. I really did enjoy this palette. I want to say, I can't remember, it's been a little while, but I can't remember which one I had more issues with than the other. I think it was the lighter version, because I ended up passing that along. However, I had a little bit of issues with one of these palettes with the blending, but that aside, when we're talking about color and whatnot, I love the intensity of the colors in here, and I love the colorfulness of this palette in general. It's just like so nice, very popping and whatnot, and I think this was meant to be like very pastelish. However, this, because it is meant for a deeper toned, it really worked for my skin tone just to be a very vibrant and bright, colorful little palette, and I absolutely love this little shimmer here. So this is another palette that is just, it screams summer for me. Again, it's missing that tone in there, something maybe, you know, a dark brown, a black, a dark red, something in there to deepen it up. However, that aside, it's a really great little, you know, colorful rainbow palette if you're ever looking for one. And if you want something a little bit lighter, you could go for the lighter option, or if you want something a little more punchy and, you know, not neon, I'm not saying this is neon, but a little bit more punchy in color, the darker option is definitely the way to go. But check my videos out, because like I said, I remember having issues blending one of the palettes, like having patching issues, but I can't remember which one that was off the top of my head, and I'm so sorry about that. But anyway, this is definitely a pick when it comes to colors in my collection and like color stories from palettes in my collection. I had to pull this one out and give it a shout out as being a really great summer palette, because like the looks that you can get with this little combo here just scream summer to me. Okay, next up, I think I saw this in a couple thumbnails, so I feel like everyone's kind of thinking the same thing as me, but this is the Natasha Denona Circo Loco palette. This is a really nice palette, and again, it has those colorful tones, but it has a lot of that depth. And like I said, when I while I really enjoy very bright and colorful looks when it comes to summer, I still really like my depth in there, and I like to be able to darken up a look and really get a very smoky outer corner with a lot of colorful pops on the lid and in the crease and whatnot. And this is a palette that absolutely gives it to me. I have a lot of really bright tones in here with the oranges, the pink, and even the like silver and gold and this mint color up here. They're very bright and punchy, and they give the looks that I create a very bright and colorful look. However, there's a lot of depth in this palette to really deepen it up and, you know, just give me that outer corner that I really enjoy. So while I wouldn't say this whole palette screams summer to me, definitely when it comes with the more darker green and, you know, more of like fallish tones in the middle here, I definitely wouldn't call it very like summery, like my personal opinion, my personal preference when it comes to summer. However, if we're looking around here at the pops of colors and whatnot with those darker tones that can deepen it up on the outer corner, you know, very carefully, I can get some looks out of here that scream summer for me. So that's why I wanted to mention it, and I had to give it a little shout out in this video. And yeah, still my most expensive palette. Still can't believe how much I spent on it, but it's a good summer palette. You can get some good summer looks, I should say. It's not, like I said, not all summer, but you can get some really good summer looks from it. Next up is going to be from Ruby May. This is the Pop Zombie palette. I feel like this is a little bit of an oddball. Like, you're going to look at it and be like, wait, summer, Katie? However, hear me out. This color story, something about it, the looks that I created just made me think of summer. I had so much fun with this palette. There's a lot of like really bright colors over here. Again, you can pair it with that deeper tone to really deepen out the outer corner, and you can just get a lot of really pretty looks. And I don't know, it was just a very interesting combination of colors that when I was looking back through the kind of looks that I created with this palette, it made me think of summer a lot, especially when I kind of stuck to the pink and the orange, and then I had the blue to deepen it up and whatnot, or the green on my lid to really make it pop. It was really pretty, and I really enjoyed it. And as much as you would look at the cover and be like, what, summer? When you just look at the color story, or if you just look at some looks that you can create with this palette, I think it's very summer inspired, and definitely my type of summer inspired palette. And it was a palette that I overall really enjoyed. I think the light pink in here was definitely a dud. Like, I didn't like working with it, and it really didn't work. But besides that, I had a good time with everything else. And even, I think pus was a little bit sheer, but you could definitely make it work. So overall, I thought this was a great palette. And like I said, anytime I think back of it, I have fond thoughts, and I have a lot of summery thoughts when I think of all the looks that I created with this palette. So I had to give it a shout out as one of my summer picks when it comes to palettes that make me think of summer, or eye looks that I could do with palettes that make me think of summer, and this is definitely one of them. Next up, I had to also mention the Musee Beauty Impressionism palette. This palette right here is a gorgeous palette. I see so much inspiration every time I open this. So it's one of those palettes that almost could just be like any time of year. Like, I see spring, I see summer, I see fall, and I see winter. So I feel like it's a bit of a cheat because it's just so encompassing of all seasons. You can really get, like I said, all seasons with this look. You can do very fallish, you can do very like more, you know, in this area for spring. You can go more of the pops and bold colors for summer, and then you can go more of the cool tones for winter. So if you're someone who likes to do those type of looks and really keep it to the seasons, this would be a palette to get, because you could get all year round, you could use this palette and create those looks. So this is a little bit of a cheat. However, you know, when I open this palette, when I think of the looks that I tended to do when I was using this palette, they were very, you know, popping with the color. They were very bold and colorful and very inspirational, and just kind of like I would just put all the colors on my face, and that often makes me think of summer. So that's why I wanted to give it a shout out here in my summer palette picks. And just, yeah, just to tell you guys, this is a phenomenal palette. And like I said, give it a big shout out as just being so very versatile, and not even just versatile, but also just to be so inspirational. Like, I get so inspired anytime I open up this palette and just get to dive into it. And I feel like every single time I pull this palette and create a look, it's always different, which is amazing because I've used this palette so many times. I've lost count of how many times I used this palette. It was a top favorite pick from the year 2020, so it's a phenomenal palette. Had to give it a shout out in my summer palette picks. So next palette I wanted to mention was the Zulu by Juvia's Place. This is a lot of Juvia's Place palettes could honestly be in my ranking when it comes to summer palettes, because they're just so colorful and inspirational and just very colorful and the type of looks, and I can get the type of looks that I like to wear in the summer. However, this is the one I thought of for, you know, this video and kind of showing you guys the type of palettes and the type of looks that I like to put together for summer, because this palette combination is right up my alley. I have those dark tones in there that I love to use when I want to deepen up a look, but it has these more summery orange and yellow tones that I really enjoy in the summer. But also too, something that I really enjoy is a minty type of color, so that has it in this middle row here. I really do enjoy wearing those in the summer. It just makes me think of summer. summer. I'm not really sure why, but it's definitely a color that I gravitate toward and think of when I think of all the looks that I like to do in the summer or that make me think of summer. So that's why I had to pick the Zulu palette. But yeah, this is just a great little palette. I have so much fun anytime I reach for it. And it's just a great array of colors to pair together and create some really fun, summery, bright, and colorful, yet still deep looks in the summer. Next up, I wanted to mention the Nomad Cartagena Magica palette. This palette right here, I almost didn't pick it because this definitely doesn't have the depth that I like, and because it is such a large palette, it's like, okay, you could have put some depth in there. So this is definitely more of a mid-tone type of palette when it comes to summer. However, I can't deny that this beautiful array of colors definitely makes me think of summers. Yellows, oranges, and reds are just right up my alley when it comes to summer tones. I really do enjoy them, and anytime I create a look, it's just like, oh, it just makes me think of sunshine, and that's why I kind of equate it to summertime. So I had to give this Nomad palette a shout out because the mattes in here are just so blendable and buttery. The shimmers are so very sparkly and beautiful. But yeah, the only thing I wish it had, because it is such a larger palette, I really do wish it had some deeper tones, like a really dark red or really dark orange. We're going to talk about another palette that kind of gives me what this palette doesn't, but all that to say, you know, talking about this palette right here, still, even though it doesn't give me the depth that I like when it comes to summertime palettes and the eye looks that I like to create during the summer and that make me think of summer, it's still a great color selection, and it's still a really pretty palette that I got a lot of very pretty looks that made me think of summer. Since we just talked about that, let's go ahead and talk about the other kind of orangey red palette that has the depth that I wish the Cartagena Magica palette had, but this is the Gimme Glow Extra Spicy, and I don't think they have this available anymore, which is kind of a bummer, but this is what it looks like on the inside, and it is that beautiful array of yellow, orange, and red tones that I absolutely love. The shimmers in here are so very beautiful, and the mattes just give me so many beautiful looks, and like I've already said previously, but I really like that combination of orange and yellow and red. It's just so very pretty and makes me think of summer, so definitely this was another palette that I thought of very early on when I was thinking of all the palettes that really give me those summery type of eye looks. And so yeah, I had to give this a shout out, though I almost didn't want to put it in because, like I said, I'm pretty sure it is discontinued or on its way out, but still wanted to give it a quick little shout out because this palette gives me the depth that the Nomad palette doesn't. So these two together honestly is a match made in heaven because it kind of, you know, I get the depth from here and the beautiful sparkly shimmers from here, or I can get the metallics from here and pair it with the lighter tones in here. So those two would go really well together. Next up, I'm sure you guys were expecting to see this, but this is the September Rose Slush palette. This was a favorite from 2020, one of the top favorites. I forget where it landed in my top 5, but this is a fantastic little palette. It's a great rainbow palette. It has all those tones that I like for the summer. It has all those tones that I like when it comes to the depth in my colorful looks. So yes, this is a rainbow palette, but it's one of the few like true rainbow palettes that make me think of summer. I have a lot of palettes that are that kind of rainbow of colors, but I feel like they always tend to be, you know, either more pastel or just more of one of each color. This is a nice gradient of a palette that still stays like always summer. Like there's nothing too terribly pale, there's nothing too terribly like, you know, dark and neutral. So I don't know. This palette, anytime I look at it, I'm just like, summer. So I had to give this one a shout out. I felt like this was very obvious for me when I was looking around my collection. I was like, oh yeah, this palette is definitely it. It is just so very bright. Really pop on your eyes, and then there's the nice row at the bottom to really deepen up my looks. And I just love that I can kind of pair the deep tones on the outer corner with whatever type of look I'm going, because you have so many options when it comes to darker colors down here. So yeah, I feel like, again, I feel like everyone was going to guess this one to be in my, you know, top 10 when it comes to summer palettes. So did not want to disappoint because this is a phenomenal summer palette. And if you wanted to like buy one palette that was just like summer and only summer, this will be my recommendation because, you know, everything is kind of like an array or kind of, you know, more sticks to a group of colors. This gives you every single color that you could want when it comes to summertime type of eye makeup looks, and it gives you light to dark. It's just a nice gradient, a nice staple palette to have. And last up, this is a very new palette in my collection, but I had to mention it because it makes me think of summer, and this is more of like a deep summer. But anyway, this is the Midas and TheBasicB's Perception palette. I recently did a video and I created 5 looks, 1 palette video, so I'll leave that linked up here if you want to see, so you can see the type of looks. But this palette has a lot of depth in it. However, those pops of colors just really, you know, when you put those together with a couple of the darker tones, really do make me think of summer. So that's why I decided to mention it. Kind of like with the Circo Loco palette, that one was a little more 50-50. However, I can create looks in there that make me think of summer, and that's kind of what I got with this palette because there's just so many very vibrant colors, and I love all the deeper tones to really deepen up the outer corner, but still have so many options to make it pop on the lid and make the color or like the eye look pop and make me think of summer. And then the shimmers are very, very beautiful. So yeah, this is definitely a palette that I feel like when you look at it, it's kind of like, oh, summer really, you know, has so many dark tones. However, there's those looks that I can get with this palette that definitely make me think of summer. summer and those looks that I created with this that I kept just going like, oh, so summery, so beautiful, you know, just so much fun, so much color in this look that I really did have a good time with it. So I definitely wanted to mention here as one of the last palettes that I mentioned for my top 10 when it comes to a summer palette. Alright, so there you have it. Those are all 10 palettes that I picked from my collection that really just screams summer when it comes to the type of looks that I create or that I can create with these palettes. So I wanted to share them with you. And I'm so sorry this is so late. I feel like I was pretty good with my fall and winter and spring videos that I did, you know, sharing from my collection. I was kind of like right there on time, and then with summer I'm super late. But anyway, I did want to go ahead and round up this little kind of series that I started, giving you guys some summer palettes from my collection. And let me know if you'd like to see this continued, because, you know, you guys know in my channel I'm always getting new palettes, so I don't know if it'd be interesting to always, you know, see what my picks would be as we get into fall, winter, and whatnot. But I feel like it wouldn't vary very much, or maybe I could change it to like new palettes to my collection that made me think of fall, winter, spring, summer, and that's a way we could continue this type of video. But let me know your thoughts down below. But at this point I've done one for each of the seasons, so if you missed it, if you're new to my channel and you missed my previous ones, I'll leave them all linked down below in the description box if you want to see what my top picks were for spring, for fall, and for, wait, I said that out of order, for spring, winter, and fall. I was trying to go backwards and I messed it up. But anyway, yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you so very much for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up on your way out, as it helps me in the whole YouTube algorithm. I'm over on Instagram if you want to check me out over there. I do some up-close makeup looks and, you know, product shots, flat lays, that sort of thing. I'm Lady Katie 92 over there. And with all that said, I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye guys.